right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the first recap edition of our trip at the 2023 World of Concrete Convention. I'm joined by Joey Bell. Joey, what's up, man?
Good, man. A little tired. Walking, I think we said we walked, 5.5 miles today?
Yep.
And it actually was probably slower of the few days that we're going to be here if I had anticipated. So it was a good warm-up day, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It was the least hectic of our days. Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we have a lot of content to shoot. Tomorrow, we have a lot of places to be and a lot of people to see. Today, we did a little bit more recon than we will have the rest of the week. But we were able to start the day off with a few press conferences. Then we got into some interviews with a few people, and then we're here with the recap video, and we'll go over all of that. But throughout this week for the World of Concrete Convention, we'll be here for 3 days. We'll give you a recap for all 3 days, and just so if you can't make it out here, we'll give you a synopsis of what you're missing, and you can make plans to come out here next year for the 2024 edition. But jumping into it today, we started our day by going to a presentation by Eric Farabee from the American Concrete Paving Association, and then we were actually able to get him on for a one-on-one interview that we have posted wherever you get your podcast, so make sure you go and listen to that. But he talked about concrete sustainability.
Yeah, it seemed to be, and we anticipated it being a hot topic this year. And we almost started to start a counter on how many times the sustainability, carbon footprints, and
Carbon neutrality.
Carbon neutrality.
We're in Vegas, so we should have been like, all right, every time you hear it, take a drink.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, we'd be tore up.
This would be a totally different podcast if we were playing that game.
This would float into the Add 10 After Dark category. But yeah, anyway, he had a really interesting presentation about the concrete pavements and, like we said, carbon neutrality and sustainability. He also went into the heat island effect, I think is what it's called, in various cities and how concrete's helping with that. And he also had some comparisons with asphalt. One of the interesting things he had was in states where there is a healthy competition between asphalt and concrete, the prices are much lower, which we anticipated. But I don't know that he really got into how that really affects carbon neutrality. He kind of threw that in there, but I don't remember if he discussed what that had to do with carbon at all.
What he was trying to say was that there are in many different ways, concrete is more sustainable and produces less of a carbon footprint than asphalt. And he was trying to depict the picture of or the perception of how you're supposed to look at that argument, being that concrete has such a longer lifespan. There's plenty of things that the industry can do to expand that lifespan. And he talked about performance engineered mixtures, optimizing designs with secondary cementitious materials, and just making a better environmental product that lasts years and years and years longer than asphalt. So in areas where that competition was healthy, the overall cost of pavement will go down over time as people choose concrete over asphalt, which is always our goal for sure. But I mean, he stressed a couple points that were very unique in that he talked about pavement vehicle interactions, about how the overall drag on concrete is less than that of asphalt. And if you're talking about vehicle emissions and miles per gallon and so on and so forth, it's actually better with concrete roads than asphalt roads. Also, concrete roads can be diamond ground to add to that longevity, whereas your asphalt roads will need to be either repaved or patched or a combination of both, depending on what state you're in. There's a lot of different aspects that he talked about in that white paper that they published that a lot of people don't even, and myself included, don't even really think about or realize. Moving on after that, we had another great presentation given to us, this time by an economist by the name of Ed Sullivan, and he gave a talk about the U.S. cement outlook. What'd you take away from that?
It was actually a super interesting presentation, and going into it, I admittedly didn't expect my attention to be held that long, because economics and numbers and stuff like that, they just don't hold my attention like hammers and chainsaws and such, and simple things.
And Terex machines.
Yeah, and large pieces of equipment. But honestly, Ed did a fantastic job of explaining forecasts. and kind of what the construction industry and concrete industry has in store for the next handful of years. And he did it in a way that just captivated me and just made me pay attention. He just did an excellent job in portraying all that.
Yeah, I'd have to second that. I agree with that 100%. And really what he said was, if you think you know, you don't know because it hasn't happened yet. It's basically what he said. He's, anytime the Federal Reserve changes an interest rate, it takes anywhere, depending on who you ask, between 12 and 18 months to really see the true effect of that. So the interest rate changes that happened in the end of Q1 of 2022, we are barely or not even seeing the effects of just those, not to mention the 8 or so increases that we saw after that. So he did go on to say that the GDP and employment in general, our economy in general, if you will, has been much more resilient than some of the experts had predicted. And it might actually cause the Federal Reserve to be a little too aggressive with their rate hikes. So we'll have to certainly keep an eye on that. He talked a lot about the residential side of things, but when we get into the public side of things, he went through some numbers and talked about how even if you do get a $20 billion grant, you don't see all $20 billion of that until the fourth year,
Right.
plus.
Yeah.
And he went on and touched a little bit about the new economic spending plan that the current administration forced through, and he said, that might not be all it's cracked up to be. It's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems, especially in economics. But, talked about home prices will drop, mortgage rates will increase, so the overall cost will increase. Even as you see the housing market kind of level out, it doesn't mean prices are going to drop. It means prices are going to go up, even though that house you're buying is cheaper than it is now or in 2022. So be aware of that. And then, of course, public infrastructure, that's going to need more time than any to recover, just because of the bureaucracy of state and local governments. What do you think about it? Am I missing anything there? There's a lot of information.
Yeah, he threw a lot of stuff at us, and the one thing I just really noticed was, like we talk about the residential. A lot of the people that we interact with in the industry, like ready-mix producers and even some contractors, a lot of their business comes from residential. And so when we were seeing those charts of how residential construction would take a pretty good hit, either this year and into 2024, it kind of makes you wonder what's really going to happen with the concrete industry, with residential driving so much business. With a drop like that, what's going to happen, I wonder.
Yeah. And then we attended the CIM synopsis, essentially. Brian Gallagher talked with a few people there and pretty much gave the overview on the CIM program. So we attended that because we have so many CIM people on the program, and we keep a close watch on that for obvious reasons. But what did you take away from that, Joey?
They had a lot of praise for MTSU. There was a lot of discussion about the new building, of course. They kind of listed off the amount of alumni that we had and the amount of people that were graduating. They had a big emphasis on recruiting, recruitment, and a push for that. Some of the programs that they had in store for recruiting, and also keeping track of alumni for recruiting. They're highlighting alumni or tracking down alumni, gathering information about them, what all they're doing, their career paths, and just using that as fuel for recruitment. Like, hey, you don't just have to go to a ready-mix concrete plant, with a CIM degree. You don't have to just go to a contractor. You can go to material suppliers. You can go work in technology. I mean, we've got a whole North Hall full of tech that we may talk about a little more here in a few minutes. But there's so many opportunities with a CIM degree, and they're just wanting to highlight all the different alumni that we have in the industry.
Yeah, good on them. Yeah, and making the connection there that a job in the concrete industry doesn't always mean you're working at a batch plant, for sure, and that's something they're doing a good job of portraying. They raised $1.2 million through their auction last year. They're looking for more than that this year. And their silent auction and their live auction here it's a big deal. It's a big part of the war of concrete, and they have a ton of stuff to raffle, like big stuff. They're not raffling off calculators. They're raffling off trucks.
Yeah, it's I didn't like I never knew that we had so many large items. Like I
Yeah.
always knew we had the mixer truck, and I don't want to discredit that because that's still a huge item.
Right.
But they have concrete mixer trucks. They have pump trucks. They have I forget what all else they said. Like huge, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment just in those handful of items.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I think
they said the overall MSRP of everything they have is a little over 2.1 million.
yeah, 2.1 million. So I think they're probably looking at a goal of 2 million coming out of this auction now. And they set a record last year, and they may blow that out of the water this year.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Well, final takeaways as well is let's see here, attendance. You want to talk about attendance?
The place is covered up with people.
Yeah.
And just the attendance of the people and the poor people in the registration line that we saw. Like we got lucky.
If you were lazy enough to get here an hour too late, you paid for it with another hour.
Yeah, you spent a couple hours in that line.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. And we got lucky because our badges were up here in the press room. But man, there were literally hundreds, if not maybe probably 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Just in line to get their badge.
Yeah, no dramatization whatsoever. That line stretched at least 100 yards.
Yeah, it's. I wonder if they do something different about that next year. Like, because I know they have the registration booth here on the north end. They have another one down in the south. Like, do they have more? Is there more? Like print your own. I don't know what all they're going to do, but I think they're going to have to find a way to get badges to people more efficiently because this just wasn't working today.
Yeah.
Because you were spending half a day in line.
Yep. And then, fast forward to the afternoon when people finally did get their badges, this place was full.
Yeah.
It was full, and it was a stark comparison to what they had the last couple of years for obvious reasons, but it definitely felt like pre-COVID World of Concrete, that's for sure.
Yeah, if not more. I think they're, like especially when we were in the North Hall, we spent a little bit of time in the Central Hall this afternoon. It seemed like there was more people. It's either more people or they're more condensed. Because we talked about, too, how when we were out here in 21, was it the June 21 show that they
Yeah,
had?
the summer show.
They had the West Hall open, and they had a handful of stuff in there. It wasn't really crowded as far as exhibitors.
So you're saying the booths were spread out a little bit more?
I think they were.
Yeah.
Because they don't have anything in that West Hall this year.
true.
That brand new hall, they don't have anything in it.
Yeah.
But they do have the outside exhibits. South Hall is full. We'll probably bounce around it before we get out of here, I know. Central Hall is full. North Hall is, they're stacked in there like flies.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about North Hall. It's full of tech, man. I mean, if you were to take a picture of the North Hall 5 years ago compared to today, you would have seen two tech companies, and now you have everything but two companies or tech companies.
Yeah, there are hundreds of different tech companies that do, they all do their own individual thing, but like you and I talked about earlier, like what are some things, like how do you set yourself apart in an atmosphere like that?
It's tough. Dare I say it's oversaturated, but it is saturated.
Yeah, and we also talked about too, like maybe comparing it to like some of these big equipment companies. Like you see Cat and you see Liebherr and you see a couple of these big equipment companies. I wonder if 40 years ago or so that there were dozens of those companies and they consolidated. And you have the companies that you have today. I wonder if that's going to happen with tech. And it may have already even started because we talked to one guy who had already talked about how that company had bought another tech company with some other technology.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So that may be starting, and that all that technology may be consolidated in the next decade or so.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and it's not necessarily buying assets with the tech companies. You're not necessarily buying assets when you acquire another company. You could be buying them to acquire their software, something that isn't even tangible. I mean, they have an idea or a patent on an algorithm or something like that could benefit something that you're trying to build, and all of that is consolidated into one product that the industry sees, but they're not going to see the 4 or 5 or more different companies and ideas and products that were condensed to make that one part. So we're going to continue to do our best to highlight those tech companies, the ones that are truly innovative and making really new groundbreaking products. We talked with Geotech today, friend of the pod, Sarah McGuire. She went through a new actual physical sensor that they're bringing to the market, and we'll have that as a video element to the podcast on our LinkedIn and YouTube pages. And then tomorrow on Wednesday, we have a conversation with a couple more tech companies. They're slightly different. Well, actually, they're fairly different, but they differ from other companies in their specific tech field within the industry. So we can start asking them the tough questions, man. Like, what sets you apart? You know?
Well, yeah, you got to. I mean, and they need to answer those questions, and I'm sure they're proud to answer them because that's probably a question they have to answer all the time with customers.
Yeah.
Because if they're approaching one company, they had to have approached a few other ones,
Right.
and doing their homework like any good purchaser should.
Yeah, we'll keep it locked on the tech industry, but we also have some really cool interviews that I'm excited for as well. We have Bosch tools, so we get to see, and then we have steel tools. I didn't see a chainsaw, but maybe they'll let me cut something up with something, maybe a diamond blade or something. We have a safety company, a footwear company, and a couple other different, very unique things. We're not just going to keep it too tech. We'll try to hit the whole industry while we're here.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff to choose from, no doubt about it, and plenty of different companies to choose from.
All right, y'all. Well, that's it for the day one wrap up. We'll be back again tomorrow with the day two wrap up, and we'll keep you guys apprised to everything that we're doing here at the World of Concrete in 2023. So y'all stay tuned, and we'll see you tomorrow.